You think you're ready for a crisis. You've got supplies, equipment, plans, confidence. Then prove it. 72 hours, 3 days, no electricity, no running water without leaving your home. Can you do it? I'm Kronos. For 15 years, I've studied every pattern, every timeline, every documented collapse in modern history. And I've learned something that most preppers refuse to accept. If you can't survive 3 days in your own apartment, you won't survive 3 weeks in a real crisis. This test, the 72-hour test, will reveal exactly where your weaknesses are, what you're missing, what you've forgotten, what you've lied to yourself about. And most importantly, it's going to show you if you're truly mentally prepared, because 90% of people fail this test. Not for lack of resources, not for lack of supplies. They fail for lack of discipline, for boredom, for panic, for mental weakness they didn't know they had. So today, I'm going to walk you through this test, the exact rules, what will happen hour by hour, and what you need to do not just to pass, but to learn what this test is really measuring. Because this isn't about proving you're tough. This is about discovering your truth. The rules of the test.
Rule number 1, turn everything off. Electricity at the breaker, water at the main valve. If you have gas, turn that off too. Everything. No cheating, no exceptions.
Rule number 2, you don't leave, not for anything. The door remains closed for 72 hours, because in a real crisis, going outside can kill you. Rule number 3, no phone, no internet, no communication with the outside world. You are alone, completely alone, just like you would be in a real grid-down scenario. Rule number 4, use only what you have stored. No ordering delivery, no asking neighbors for help, no backup plans. You survive on what you've prepared, or you don't survive. And rule number 5, you must journal every hour. What you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're struggling with. Because the real test isn't physical, it's psychological. Those are the rules. Simple, clear, brutal. And now let me tell you what happens when people actually try this. I've guided over 200 people through this test. Experienced preppers, military veterans, survivalists, people who swore they were ready. 90% quit before hour 72, not because they ran out of food, not because they ran out of water. They quit because they couldn't handle themselves. So let me walk you through what really happens, hour by hour, the timeline nobody talks about. Because understanding this timeline is more valuable than any gear you can buy. Hour 0 to hour 3, the confidence phase. You flip the breaker, darkness. You turn off the water, silence. And in that first moment, you feel prepared, maybe even excited. This is what you've been training for. You check your supplies, you review your plan. You think, this is going to be easy. I've got this. Everyone thinks that. Everyone is wrong. Because by hour 3, the first crack appears. It's small. You probably don't even notice it yet. Boredom. Just a whisper. What do I do now? Hour 3 to hour 12. The adjustment phase. And this is where it gets interesting. By hour 6, you've realized something uncomfortable. Time moves differently when you have nothing to do. No phone, no TV, no internet, no distractions. You try to read, but you can't focus. You try to plan, but you've already reviewed the plan 6 times. You try to rest, but you're not tired. You're bored. And this is the first critical lesson of the test. In a real crisis, your biggest enemy isn't hunger. It isn't thirst. It's your own mind, the silence, the waiting, the not knowing. By hour 9, the second crack appears. Doubt. You start questioning your supplies. Is this enough water? You start questioning your plan. What if something goes wrong? You start questioning the test itself. This is stupid. I could just end this. And this is where 50% quit. Not at hour 70.
At hour 9, they tell themselves it was a stupid idea. They tell themselves they've proved enough. They flip the breaker back on. Test over. Failed.
Hour 12 to hour 24, the dark phase, and I mean that literally. By hour 12, if you started in the morning, night is falling. And this is when the test becomes real. Because darkness changes everything. Your apartment feels different, smaller, more isolated. You hear sounds you've never noticed before. The building settling, neighbors through walls, footsteps in the hallway. Every sound becomes a question. Every creak becomes a threat. And this is the third crack. Fear. Not rational fear, primitive fear. The kind your ancestors felt in caves. You are alone, in darkness, and your brain starts asking, what if someone knows I'm vulnerable right now?
By hour 18, another 20% quit. They turn the lights back on. They tell themselves, I just wanted to check something. But they don't turn them back off, because once you break the darkness, you can't unbreak it. The spell is broken. The test is over.
Hour 24 to hour 48, the crucible. If you make it here, you're in the top 30%. But this is where the real psychological warfare begins. By hour 30, you've been awake through one night, slept poorly, woken multiple times. Your sleep schedule is broken. Your circadian rhythm is confused, and you're starting to feel off. You're eating, but you're not hungry. You're drinking, but you're not thirsty. You're doing it because it's something to do, because you're bored, because you need a task, any task, to fill the void. And this is where the fourth crack appears. Irritability. Everything annoys you. The silence annoys you. The darkness annoys you. Your own thoughts annoy you. You're trapped with yourself, and you're discovering you're not great company. By hour 42, you've hit the wall. This is the moment you want to quit more than you've wanted anything in days. Not because you're suffering, but because you're bored out of your mind. And this is the critical insight, the reason this test matters. In a real crisis, this is day 2, just day 2. And if you can't handle boredom for day 2, you won't handle week 2 or month 2. Because here's what most preppers don't understand. Modern collapse isn't dramatic. It's not zombies. It's not Mad Max. It's waiting. It's boredom. It's isolation. It's psychological endurance. Venezuela, Argentina, Sri Lanka, Lebanon. The people who survived weren't the most armed. They weren't the most supplied. They were the most mentally resilient. The ones who could handle months of nothing happening except slowly running out. Hour 48 to hour 72, the final stretch. Only 10% make it here. And if you do, you've learned something invaluable about yourself. By hour 50, something strange happens. You stop fighting it. You accept the boredom. You accept the silence. You accept the discomfort. And paradoxically, it gets easier. You start noticing things. How much water you actually use. How much food you actually need. How many times you reach for your phone out of habit, not necessity. How loud silence really is. How long time really is. By hour 60, you've developed a routine. Wake, eat, journal, ration, rest. Simple, boring, effective. You've become efficient. You've become disciplined. You've become something you weren't at hour 0. And when hour 72 arrives, when you flip that breaker back on, you don't feel victorious. You feel different, quieter, more aware, because you've met someone you didn't know existed, yourself without distractions. Now let me tell you what this test actually measures, because it's not what you think. It's not measuring if you can survive without power.
It's measuring 5 specific psychological weaknesses that will kill you in a real crisis.
Weakness 1. Dependence on stimulation. If you need constant entertainment, constant information, constant engagement, you're already compromised. Because crisis is boring. Crisis is waiting.
Weakness 2. Need for external validation. If you need to tell someone what you're doing, to post updates, to share your progress, you can't maintain operational security. You will expose yourself. You will make yourself a target. Weakness 3. Inability to tolerate discomfort. If you can't handle being slightly too hot, slightly too cold, slightly hungry, slightly bored, you will make desperate decisions. You will sacrifice security for comfort. Weakness 4. Poor time perception. If you don't know what 6 hours feels like, what 12 hours feels like, what a day feels like without clocks and screens, you will miscalculate everything. You will exhaust resources too quickly. You will panic too early.
And weakness 5, the most important one, inability to be alone with your thoughts. If you can't sit in silence with yourself for 72 hours, what happens at week 3, month 2, when the only company you have is yourself? These 5 weaknesses, they're not abstract, they're documented. Every modern collapse, the early failures had these patterns. The survivors, they had already confronted these weaknesses. They'd already done the work. So what do? How do you actually pass this test? Not just survive it, but learn from it. Let me give you the framework that the 10% use. Step 1. Schedule everything. Not because you have to, but because structure defeats boredom. Wake time, meal times, journal times, rest times, patrol times. Yes, patrol times. Walk your apartment every 3 hours. Check windows, check doors. Stay operational.
Step 2. Ration aggressively. Use half of what you think you need for everything. Water, food, light, battery power. Because the test isn't about comfort. It's about learning your actual needs versus your perceived needs. Step 3. Embrace boredom. Don't fight it. Don't try to fill every moment. Sit in it. Feel it. Learn that boredom isn't dangerous. It's just uncomfortable. And uncomfortable isn't fatal. Step 4. Journal honestly. Not what you want to feel, what you actually feel. Hour 18, I want to quit. I'm bored. I'm questioning why I'm doing this. Write it. Own it. Because self-awareness is survival.
And step 5, don't quit at the hard moments. Quit at the easy moments. Hour 9 when you're bored, don't quit. Hour 42 when you're mentally done, don't quit. But hour 72 when you've completed it, then you can evaluate. Then you can decide if this was valuable. Now let me tell you what happened to the people who completed this test, the 10%, because this is where it gets interesting. They didn't just learn about crises, they learned about themselves.
40% made immediate changes to their preps. Not gear changes, lifestyle changes. They reduced their dependence on electricity, on hot water, on constant stimulation. They practiced voluntary discomfort. 30% discovered they weren't as prepared as they thought. Their water was insufficient, their food was wrong, too much complexity, not enough simplicity. Their lighting plan was broken. The test revealed the gaps their checklist missed. 20% had psychological breakthroughs. They confronted anxiety they didn't know they had. They discovered coping mechanisms they didn't know they needed. They learned they were stronger than they feared, or weaker than they assumed.
And 10%, the truly valuable 10%, reported that they stopped prepping out of fear and started prepping from knowledge. The panic was gone. The anxiety was gone, replaced by calm capability. Because that's what this test really does. It removes the theory. It removes the fantasy. It removes the YouTube videos and the gear reviews and the apocalypse scenarios, and it leaves you with truth.
The truth of how long 72 hours really is. The truth of how much you really need. The truth of how your mind really works under pressure. Not the mind you imagine you have, the mind you actually have.
So here's my challenge to you. Not my suggestion, my challenge. This weekend, 72 hours, the 5 rules I gave you, do it. Actually do it. Not someday, this weekend.
When the power goes out and doesn't come back, when the water stops flowing, when you hear your neighbor knocking, asking if you have supplies, what do you do hour 6, hour 12, hour 24?
Those are the questions we answer next, but only if you've done the test. Only if you've earned the knowledge by confronting yourself first, because theory means nothing until you've lived it.
Subscribe if you want the timeline, if you want the patterns, if you want the truth instead of the fantasy. New video every Wednesday, and we're just getting started. 72 hours, 5 rules, this weekend. And when you finish or fail, you'll understand why 90% don't make it. And more importantly, you'll understand which 10% you are. The clock is always ticking. The question is, are you ready to face it?